Of all the classic Universal monster movies, my favorite is The Invisible Man. Based off the novel of the same name by H.G. Wells, The Invisible Man was released in 1933, the same year as King Kong, and was directed by James Whale. This film was by no means Whale's first foray into the worlds of science fiction and horror, as he directed some of Universal's most well-known productions in the genres, such as Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Old Dark House. The movie is known for being an early example of a special effects-driven work in the then relatively young era of sound filmmaking. The story of The Invisible Man centers on, well, an invisible man, or more specifically, an invisible scientist, played by Claude Rains. Rains was a pretty unknown actor when he got the part, which was due entirely to his unforgettable voice.
I said, power to walk into the gold vaults of the nations, into the secrets of kings, into the Holy of Holies. Power to make multitudes run squealing in terror at the touch of my little invisible finger. Even the moon's frightened of me, frightened to death.
The scientist uses chemicals to turn himself invisible, but unfortunately a drug he uses in the mixture, the one that's most important, has a nasty side effect of making the user go maniacal. The scientist's boss, partner, and his fiancée try to reason with him, but the Invisible Man has none of it. Made crazy by the chemical mixture and intoxicated by his own power, he terrorizes thousands along the English countryside as he begins to rack up a body count in the hundreds and menace the police in their search for him. Claude Rains turns in an awesome performance as the Invisible Man. He acts a lot with his body, really accentuating his boisterous energy, and he has a lot of dialogue that capitalizes on his amazing voice. He really seems like a madman out of control, someone who enjoys the power he has way too much. Gloria Stewart plays the fiancée. She's a returning James Whale actress, having been in The Old Dark House. You might know her as the Old Rose from Titanic, a role which garnered her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Here, she's alright, playing the part of concerned love interest dutifully. A casting decision I really enjoyed was that of the Invisible Man's employer, played by Henry Travers. Travers played the Angel Clarence in one of my favorite films of all time, It's a Wonderful Life. While he doesn't have a whole lot to do in this flick, it's still nice to see him. Something that should be noted is the hilarious supporting cast. A lot of the background characters have these offbeat, funny, over-the-top performances that keep a wonderful levity flowing throughout the film. In fact, the whole movie has a really campy tone that it pulls off quite well. As mentioned before, The Invisible Man was very special effects heavy. They use a lot of tedious camera effects to achieve the all-important invisibility gimmick. A lot of effort went into making it look good, and it shows. The finished effect is very effective and impressive considering the limitations of technology at the time. The Invisible Man manages not to look terribly hokey, rather he doesn't look like anything at all, and that's perfect. While clearly a lot of attention went into making the invisibility work, the same can't be said for the sets. They all look small and fabricated, something very common for the time, especially with Universal films. Almost all the settings look like they were built on a soundstage in the Universal backlot, which is probably what happened. Although not really a detriment to the film, it does kind of make everything feel small. The Invisible Man is supposed to be going on this mass rampage, but we never really get to see the extent of it. A lot of it just happens off screen, and what we do see feels small, apart from a few sequences. Something else about the film that kind of bugs me is the editing. While competent, there are these occasional cuts that feel a bit disjointed. A lot of the time the film jumps around from scene to scene as well, and it kind of makes the pacing seem hectic and a little rushed. And considering the Invisible Man's running time only just breaks an hour long, that hectic feel is unnecessary. But it does keep the film moving, and couple that with the fun story and entertaining characters, and you have a pill that's remarkably easy to swallow. The Invisible Man was a success upon its release, and deservedly so, becoming Universal's second most profitable horror film after Frankenstein. It was well received by critics and made a star out of Claude Rains. It remains one of James Whale's most well-known movies and has been recognized in recent years for its value, earning a spot in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress in 2008. The Film Registry is for works that are considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, and I'm really happy to know this film made it on there. If you're looking for something you haven't seen before, are a sci-fi fan, or maybe just want to get into the classics, I heavily encourage you to check out The Invisible Man. Its effects and personality make it a really good time.